Khalil Rountree is going to feast on Jamahal Hill, and
Yeah.
Jamahal Hill will again 10-7 himself in some way, and the knockout will just continue to add to the highlight reel of knockouts of Jamahal Hill. All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
All right, so we have a weekend for this coming up with maybe 1.5, 2 fights that we're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, at least 2 that I'm interested in. I don't know how good they'll be, but I'm interested in them conceptually. There might be a couple of other fighters that I'm interested in, but the fights themselves, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Colin, what fight this weekend interests you the most?
What fight or fighter?
Fight. Just the fight.
Yeah. I mean, since with actually knowing both fighters, I guess you would say the Kape and Almabayev fight, but I am most interested about how Tank Davis does in boxing.
Got it. Well, then let's touch on this Kape Almabayev. Colin, from seeing both of these guys fight, explain to me why this fight won't suck ass.
Well, first of all, it's flyweight. So it's already, the chance of it being better is already better. You have to have skill, you have to have speed, so it's always interesting in that regards.
Mm-hmm.
The second, you gotta root for the small guy, 5'4", Almabayev. Like, come on.
I do root for him, but I also have seen both of these guys fight. And I'm like, if I had to pick 2 boring flyweights, they often become exciting when they have an exciting opponent, but they're not the one to initiate the excitement. They're like, I'll hang back until you bring the fight to me. And I'm like, we've got 2 people. Right, we've got 2 lovers unwilling to make the first move, and so it's just gonna be a night of platonically watching a movie. It's not going. There's no Netflix and chill here. It's just Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this fight.
Okay, that is fair. But aren't you excited for the fact that this was your prediction? You were predicting that your boy Almabayev would take the flyweight crown by the end of the year, and this would be his first step in doing so.
Yeah, and that's why it's one of 2 fights that I'm interested in.
Yeah. So tell me how he's gonna do that. Tell me how he's gonna leapfrog Kape here.
Yeah, so Kape is a very, Manal Kape on paper has more ability than Almabayev to win this fight. He hits harder. Okay. He's more athletic. He's more explosive. His striking, throwing straight line punches in combination is better. Here's the issue. Manal Kape goes, initiative, I hate that shit. I'm not going to be the first jabroni to throw a punch in a combination. I'm not doing that. You're not going to get me doing that. So I can see Manal Kape, when he loses, often he loses solely due to the fact that he just doesn't do enough stuff. You know? Like, in MMA, just doing stuff. Dricus du Plessis is a perfect example. No matter how janky it is, no matter how stupid it is, if you just do more stuff, you probably win. And Manal Kape is the king of not doing stuff unless you demand it of him, right? He's had exciting fights when people rush at him and turn it into a brawl. He's happy to oblige and most times comes out on top. But if you're like, no, man, I'm good standing 6 feet away from you, and every now and then getting a little bit closer, hitting you with a leg kick and backing out, Manal Kape goes, I'm not gonna engage in that. I'll just stand here and not do anything. On the other hand, also Almabayev, he could be a little boring, but he does strike me as a guy who knows. I mean, he's won every UFC fight he's had as he's increasing competition. He does seem like someone who has a mindset of, I need to figure out the right strategy to win.
Mhm.
Might not be the sexiest way to win. It might not be the most exciting way to win. But he's like, I figure out the right way to win. And so with that said, I go, the way to win against Manal Kape is let's keep the striking volume below 10 each round. Just pop out a jab. You'll hit him. Back away. Manal Kape won't press forward or do anything. This really strikes me as like if Almabayev tries to do too much, he might get nuked by Manal Kape. But Manal Kape is like almost kind of happy to let a fight just be lost by not doing anything.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, for 25 minutes, yikes. That's not great. I don't like that. That doesn't sound like a good recipe. So that's how I see it for Almabayev. He's just smarter. Because Manal Kape also still uses like the 6-letter F word derogatorily in post-fight press conferences. Like he's definitely a backwards individual who holds retrograde views. So like he's not the smartest dude in the world. Yeah, but at any moment, also Almabayev might try to engage in a brawl to bring some excitement. Now it is at the Apex though, so we don't have to worry about the crowd cheering, because this is where excitement goes to die. So like, that
And
might
smaller
benefit.
cage though, smaller cage for smaller
Yeah,
fighters.
that's true. So I don't know. The vibe I get is that this fight's gonna be pretty boring, but if also Almabayev wins, like we've got a new contender in the flyweight division, and he has all of the capability to exploit the things that Manal Kape has, which is, I mean, we have to. Here's my stamp of approval: Manal Kape, donkey brains. My boy's got bad donkey brains.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I have a question for you on that. I have a couple questions for you. One from
Yes.
regarding Manal Kape. One, do you think his fighting style is actually predicated on being a counter fighter in that he requires someone to make a mistake for him to capitalize on? Or do you think he's more a reactionary fighter, which kind of like you were saying, like whatever the other opponent does, he's just going to try to match that. So if it's going to turn into a brawl, he's going to just out brawl the guy. If he's going to try to grapple, he's going to try to out grapple the guy or outwork the guy then. And it's when someone puts on more energy, more pressure, the true Manal Kape is able to come out then. But he has to wait for someone else to initiate that.
Yeah, let's brainstorm this together, because what you've just posed is like, since I'm not actively fighting anymore and you continue to actively compete,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to pose this question to you. Like, I get the sense, and this is just kind of a vibes sense, that there's quite a few MMA fighters who are like, it's less important to win in regards to looking good
Mm-hmm.
as I'm winning, i.e., nobody wants to look like Dricus 2+C, and that's his kind of fight hack, is going, I don't care how shitty I look and how embarrassing it is that I've won this way, I'm just going to do it. Whereas we've talked about like Izzy and Robert Whitaker wanting to win kind of beautifully, and then when you go, all you need to do is just throw more volume. Even if you miss 50% of the strikes that you throw in this volume, it'll win you the fight. But MMA fighters seem really opposed to that. They kind of go like, no, but I want to look amazing as I win. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, 100%.
do you run into people that you're training with, or like, is that a sense you get with like active competitors that you are around? Because that's the sense I get from Manal Kape, is a little bit like, I'm not going to do anything that might make me look foolish. That's why I'll never take the initiative. I'll just look like a genius counterpuncher. When you're like, if you just spammed a jab, even if you missed 75% of it, you would still win this fight, and he just won't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, I think I think in any sport it's that way. Since there is a lot of, accolade and ego involved, like if you win, but you win in more entertaining fashions, then you get more clout, I mean, like there is no reason for some NBA players to have to like run up the score and try to like drop 60 points in a night. Yet they do, There's no reason for them to do like a windmill dunk when no one is near them, like
Yeah. But like that looks cool and like is effective. It's like, I don't know, at least in the NBA analogy, like what is the dirty, nasty, you look like a donk, but you are still running up the score while looking like using DDP as the example, like
Right.
I don't
There is no DDP is one of its own, like
yeah, but like
across the sports. But no, but it is like that, I mean, especially with combat sports, like with the UFC and because with the UFC and boxing, it's like you just make the fight that sells the most. It's not like I have to win these next 10 fights in order to get to the playoffs or whatever. There are in every other sport though, it's like I have to do this to get to the end game. There's very few other sports that are like it's just who I am. What personality, what clout have I had? It's kind of like you said, if Conor McGregor came back, he could probably demand a really high profile or title shot just because of who he is. And he has not fought in years, but he has that clout. You can't say like, Tom Brady comes out of retirement and automatically gets to become a Super Bowl contender,
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so to kind of like tie all of that together to what your initial question is like, I think Manal Kape, it's not necessarily like a conscientious, this is the way that I think is best to win the fight. I think it really is like I think a lot of these guys, I mean, you mentioned like fighting style, you mentioned the word personality. It really is like a personality thing. The way you fight is very indicative of your personality.
Yeah.
And like Manal Kape strikes me as a guy that wants to be seen as like cool and slick and like have swagger. And so he's like, I'm not going to throw volume because that's not what a dude with swagger would do. A dude with swagger would hang back and then throw like a 1-2 every 5 minutes. And it's like, that's how you lose fights though, motherfucker. Like that's not, that doesn't work.
Yep.
Whereas Oscar Almabayev seems to have no ego and is like, I'll look like a donk out there. I don't give a shit, but I know how to win fights. Here's the mathematical equation I figured out to winning a fight, and I'm going to do that. And so that strikes me as something that's going to make this fight suck ass. But at any moment, right, Manal Kape is a very heavy hitter. He is very fast. He has really good reaction time and really good accuracy on his strikes. So at any moment over 25 minutes, he could just like also Almabayev overextend slightly and Manal Kape could nuke him. But I have a feeling that also Almabayev is a pretty smart fighter if he can be boring sometimes and pretty skilled. And Manal Kape is so willing to lose fights just for the sake of looking cool as he loses. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's my read on this fight.
So do you think also if Asuma Almabayev wins this fight, do you think he's next in line for a title, or do you think he'll have to win one more before he gets a title shot?
Baby, we're jumping ahead because they've already announced who's Panchozer's next title fight.
I know. I mean, after this,
I think he'll probably have to win one more. They're gonna have that Steve Erceg versus Brandon Moreno fight. My gut tells me that they might fight Asu Almabayev to figure out who the next challenger is.
Oh, okay.
And if Tatsuro Taira, maybe Tatsuro Taira and Asu Almabayev fight, and then that can recatapult one of them. I assume Tatsuro Taira into a title shot. There's a okay. Help me, because my brain is going to absolute mush in my old age. Who are the 3 Japanese fighters that we're really into in the flyweight division?
Tatsuro Taira, Kaya Sakura, and Rei Saruya.
Sakura and Rei Saruya. Okay. I forgot about Kaya Sakura. I'm just like, there's a third one. I can't fucking... Anyway, but yeah. Because you could do a Kaya Sakura versus Asu Almabayev or Manal Kape after this. Like, that's... Yeah. So, but I think it sets them up. Whoever wins this probably gets set up for a title eliminator fight.
A contender. Yeah, number 1 contender. Okay.
Unless this
like
fight
that.
sucks. Which, like, I mean, we got to talk about this for a second. The UFC is putting this on an Apex card, and they routinely are like, flyweights don't sell. You've quite literally created what might be the only matchup in the flyweight top 15 that might be bad, right? Like you said, it's so hard to have a bad flyweight fight. This is the 2 fighters that might give you that. You made that the main event, and then you're like, what should we do to help people be interested in this card. Let's do a co-main event between middleweights unranked Cody Brundage and Julian Marquez. Holy shit. They don't give a fuck about this card. This isn't even a slot bucket. This is a shit bucket. This is the bucket in and out house. This is a bad card. Oh my God. And I hate it because Manal Kape, Almabayev is my boy. And also, I think the second fight in the night is Charles Johnson versus Ramzan Temirov. Charles Johnson, 4-fight win streak, knocked out Josh Van. Why the hell isn't he on the main card? What is going on here? This is the UFC is continually, to quote Luke Thomas, when you have a monopoly, you just start trying to extract wealth from your customers, and just the horribleness of this card is pretty profound. It's bad.
That actually led into my second question is if, also Almabayev, you said, just finds ways to win. But because Flyweight is one of those already in the shitter divisions with the UFC and Dana White in particular, if you don't have an entertaining or exciting matchup or fight or anything, then it's it doesn't matter who you beat. You could just get fucking booted from the organization.
Yeah. It's, mark my words. Everyone listen to me very carefully. There are 29 heavyweights in the UFC, which means you have more than a 50% chance to be a ranked contender in the UFC at heavyweight. Dana White would more happily cut Flyweight if he didn't need them to fulfill the content requirement of number of fights than he would the heavyweight division. The Flyweight division is infinitely more skilled, infinitely more talented, and yet he is allowing absolute donks to fight at heavyweight and get rankings. People who could not even compete in college level sport. And I'm not even talking about interesting college level sport. I'm going to denigrate Canada here, and I'm real pro Canada. These motherfuckers couldn't even get into curling. They're that unathletic. When they brush their teeth, their fucking titties jiggle. You know what I mean? They are fat, unathletic nobodies, and they're
damn.
It is
my God.
Shameful. It is shameful. And dude, cut heavyweight. Fuck this shit. Get Flyweight the actual talent they need. They've got good talent here. Put them in a good spot. Don't put them on Apex with the worst undercard I've ever seen. Right? We have as our preliminary featured prelim, Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Austin Lane, a washout from the NFL who can't do anything. And then Mario Pinto, a guy who's writing a 9-0 record against people who have less than 500 wins or a 500 score on their win record. Mario Pinto's has an opponent who's 1-11. What are we doing giving them a featured prelim spot? And then we don't have Charles Johnson, an amazing flyweight, in that same spot. What is going on? This is... Anyway, it shows Dana White and the UFC's proclivity for big boys over tiny guys, which is I just want to see big, ugly swing and bang. I don't care about skill, which more and more Dana White proves himself to be a filthy casual. And it hurts my heart, man. Yeah. So that's my thought about this UFC Apex card. Is there any fights on this card you do want to call out, or fighters?
I mean, you already called it Charles Johnson earlier, way early on the fight, but that's kind of it. I don't really know anyone else here.
We got to call out JJ Aldrich and Andrea Lee.
Okay.
Now, Andrea Lee did have multiple boyfriends with swastika tattoos, but we will.
Great.
We'll that's par for the course of the UFC. JJ Aldrich has both competed in tournaments that you and I have both competed in.
Yeah, that's right.
We probably have met her and forgotten.
Yeah, probably.
But, you watch her fight and you're like, that's a disciplined jab. That's a great takedown off of catching a kick and throwing someone to the ground. That's disciplined fighting. That's going out there in the first 25 seconds and waiting to see what the opponent throws, because you know that most of these opponents are going to throw their favorite technique. Very disciplined. Love JJ Aldrich. It feels like an athletic ceiling for her, but fantastic. So that fight I mentioned in, and then there is it is the second after Austin Lane versus Mario Pinto. Chepe Mariscal. Have you seen this guy fight?
No, who is this?
He is is he out of Fight Factory? Chepe Mariscal? This is a featherweight fight. He's fighting
Okay.
Ricardo Ramos. Chepe Mariscal. Motherfucker can fight. Like
Okay.
actually, and I'm not talking about like DDP fight. I'm like, whoa, hey, you watch MMA fighters, they throw a kick, a roundhouse kick, and they leave their toes pointing their opponent. For anyone who doesn't know, you should be pivoting so that your heel faces your opponent, right? And then once you're finished, you return it right back to the place in your stance. And then instead of standing there, you're supposed to move so that somebody can't time that. This guy does that. This guy chambers his kicks, chambers his punches correctly. He returns them to the right location. He has an overall understanding of like, once I throw my combination, I cannot then just like sit back and look at my handiwork. I must take an L step or I must pivot off to the side. I must sidestep my opponent. Chepe Mariscal is definitely, for someone who's unranked at featherweight, who's had very few fights in the UFC, he's my like number one bet for getting a title shot in the next like 2 years. Chepe Mariscal, very good.
All right.
Worth watching him. He's a minus 410, so the bookies also know that he's gonna beat the shit out of Ricardo Ramos. He's worth watching.
Okay.
Everyone else, nah. Nah. Sorry, guys. Nah, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this card. So watch Chepe Mariscal, watch JJ Aldrich because we stand JJ Aldrich in this fight. And if she loses to Andrea Lee, just know in our hearts that JJ Aldrich, to the best of our knowledge, has never dated a Nazi sympathizer. And that's important. That's important to me, at least.
That is. Yeah.
So that's this card. Anything else to say, Colin?
No. Let's talk about the actual card that
Yes.
we should be focused on. So, Gervonta Tank Davis is fighting this weekend.
Yes.
And I don't know anything about his opponent, so you're gonna have to educate me.
Oh my god. Here's my dirty secret. I don't know a ton about Lamont Roach either.
Oh, there we go.
So here are the like, I guess 2 things, maybe 3 that I'm looking at. Tank Davis has in the past few months come out and kind of said like, he wants to move past boxing. He only wants a few more fights and he's hoping to retire soon, right? Which even when a fighter gets that in their mind, I don't know, this feels bro science-y, but it also feels anecdotally correct. So you correct me on this. Like when a fighter begins to even think that way, you kind of go like, hey, their ability to push through those really tough moments is not going to be as strong as it used to be when they were like, I'm in it to win it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think that's bro science. I think it's literally just like, are you motivated and disciplined or not? Like,
yeah,
that's it. I mean, there's always, we see it in every sport and actually in all aspects of life. Like, if you're motivated, you will do more. If you're not, like, someone will pass you by. And in fighting sports, that person who passes you by is also punching you in the fucking face as you do that. So
yeah. So like, this is a little bit more, I feel like, of a gut check for Tank Davis to see like where he's at being part of these like what I think boxing people have been calling the 4 or 5 princes era, right? There were the 4 kings at middleweight back in the day with Marvin Hagler and yada yada yada. I'm not gonna name them all. We all know them. They with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, and Shakur Stevenson. There's kind of been like, oh, these are the 4 princes, right? Because it's lightweight. We don't really know what they're doing. But Ryan Garcia has like fully lost his mind. Devin Haney's kind of been exposed. Shakur Stevenson just is too routinely injured to like be considered like, hey, how will his career go? And so the kind of thought was like, well, it's got to be Tank Davis then. But Tank is also like, I only want maybe 2 or 3 more fights. So he might be out of the game really quick. And so the question is like, can he still have can we make a big fight with Shakur Stevenson? Can we make a big fight with Devin Haney in his last few fights in order to do this? And Lamont Roach, I guess, is a good test, right? He's like a good fighter. I've watched only a little bit of his like highlights and read up to see like by Steve Kim. Steve Kim, a very good boxing journalist, worthwhile to read, saying like, he's a really good fighter, but like I don't know if at Tank's peak of what we've seen, Lamont Roach can beat him. But the question is like, if Tank isn't really in this thing, Lamont Roach might have the ability to take it away from him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's intriguing to see, especially because I think we talked about it last time with the last time Tank fought when he came out to Ghostbusters and everything. He just like lost rounds, and then like in round 6, they were like, "You got to stop him because he's gonna take this fight." And in 2 rounds, he knocked him out.
Right.
Like, oh, now's the time to go. Great, I'll do it. And like, I don't know how washed or like how uninvolved you need to be when you have that ability. Like, right, like how diminished does your preparation need to be before you lose that ability when you have such a kind of like preternatural ability to like stop people when you decide you want to stop them? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you've got 36 minutes to do it.
I don't know. For me, I think I gave him the benefit of the doubt on that one because it was like he was coming off like a year layoff. Like he hadn't fought in over a year. So it was like, okay, he was taking some time, taking the first few rounds to like shake the ring rust off, and we've talked about him also. Didn't you say he habitually has had like slower starts to begin with? And maybe not 6 rounds, but like cruising on the first couple, like 2 to 3.
Yeah, he typically cruises the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So that kind of makes sense then, And then it's like, if you're shaking off the rust, you already take a little bit to get warmed up or to get your reads. And then it's like, okay, now, and then he has that just insane ability. He's like, I've got my reads. I know what's going to happen. Boom. Game over now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, he always, it's like, I mean, if we look at his past, 7 performances, it was a 12th round TKO against Gamboa. It was a 6th round KO against Santa Cruz. It was a 11th round TKO against Barrios. It was a unanimous decision against Isaac Cruz, but we saw Isaac Cruz recently when he fought on that Benavidez Morel card can just like take punches to the face endlessly and be fine. 6th round TKO, right? Most of his TKOs and KOs come in round 6 afterwards. He really doesn't do a ton up until round 6, and then that's when he turns on the fucking gas, and he can get you out of there in 2-3 rounds when he decides to do that.
But that's kind of normal at the higher level boxing. It's very it's very rare to have like a knockout within the first 3 to 4 rounds, at the highest level, even at lighter weights, or so.
Yeah. It definitely and especially because he trained and was managed by Floyd Mayweather, which the great hack of Floyd Mayweather was he was a 6-round fighter, right? He only had 6 rounds of like really good fighting in him. He just did that round 6 through 12, right? Because he would collect all the data and like he maybe would win just because of his superior skills. But like when he really started moving down on you was round 6 through 12. Right. That was like his whole thing was just being like, hey, you might have run the first 5. You might want to run the first 6, but you're fucking toast for these back 6. And that's when people crumple. And unlike Floyd Mayweather, he has what seems to be, I mean, I don't know how big his hands and wrists are, but the dude can thump like
I was gonna say thumping power. Like
yeah. It's like it's almost even more than Pacquiao, like real thumping. Which did you know this fact? I just learned this the other day. Pacquiao's hand size and wrist circumference was the same as Vladimir Klitschko.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
You telling me this tiny Filipino man had the same punching size as this huge
Slavic heavyweight? Yeah.
Dude, I feel really bad now for Ricky Hatton. Yeah. It makes sense why you just was utterly blown up.
Yeah. We use the phrase built different, I think a little too liberally, but when you see a motherfucker who has the hands of a heavyweight and they are a flyweight,
they started their careers with flyweight, yeah.
Different, you know what I mean? And I mean, that's why I would never be an actually good boxer. I've got little tiny baby hands. Like, I just can't, right? And then you
Yeah.
do meet people that have bear paws for hands, and you're like, yeah, that would hurt to have that hit me. Yeah, it's crazy. So I wonder if Gervonta Davis also kind of has a little bit of that. Because it is a weird. I mean, it's like you hear about like Sonny Liston, right? Sonny Liston had 3 times the size of the hand of Muhammad Ali, so he could throw really slow and accurate punches and knock people out because he had giant fucking mitts. It's wild. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean that's all I really gotta say is like it feels like more of like a gut check on where is Gervonta and can we make, because we did have the Ryan Garcia Gervonta Davis fight, but we haven't had the Devin Haney or the Shakur Stevenson fight,
Mhm.
right? And we never had the Lomachenko fight. We never had the
Yeah.
Teofimo Lopez fight. There's so many great fights, and it's kind of like is Gervonta, even if he says I've only got 2 more after this, can we try to make those huge fights with like actual opponents? Because like Isaac Cruz is good, Mario Barrios is good, Rolly Romero is good, Ryan Garcia is very good, like Frank Martin is good, but they're not the like 5 or 6 people that we really want him to see fight. And this is kind of the gut check, especially
Mhm.
because right, he has been to jail, he has been going through a ton of like personal stuff, and I feel bad for him, right? Like I don't know how much you know about his personal life, but like
Yeah.
quite literally, like, grew up in the Baltimore projects, quite literally abandoned as a child by his parents, who he did not see for like weeks on end, had to fend for himself. Like, shit's fucked. The dude's
Yeah.
had a hard life. But as a selfish person, I want to see him fight Devin Haney. I want to see him fight Shakur Stevenson. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You
yeah,
could feel bad about someone's life and still want something personally. Like I get it.
yeah, and isn't that just fight sports? Being like, I am watching you take years off your life for my entertainment, and that
Yeah.
feels bad, but also I like violence, so please keep doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of like I don't have like a great read on this. Like I think like if the Gervonta that showed up against Frank Martin shows up against Lamont Roach, I'm like he washes Lamont Roach, but I just don't know what his headspace is at. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, there's not really anything else to like mention on this card. It's basically we're here for this fight, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are the fights this weekend, right? It's really
Yeah.
2 fights. One is probably going to be a snooze. The other one will either be Lamont Roach beating Tank Davis, which we've quite literally never seen before, and like should probably be entertaining, or it'll be Tank Davis, like he always does, absolutely nuking someone after round 6,
Mhm.
which is pretty cool to watch as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so this is the fight to watch. Like this is the fight I'll be most interested in this weekend.
Oh.
Alrighty, so that's this week. Colin, we've got
Yeah.
so many new
Oh
fights
yeah.
to cover off on, and I'm going to cover off on them, and I'm going to turn it back to you. I've done a lot of talking.
All right. All right.
So, new co-main event for UFC 314
Yeah. Yeah.
or 313. I can't remember.
Three.
Whatever.
313.
313. It's no longer everyone's favorite psychotic New Zealand madman Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje, but in fact a rematch: Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev 2.
Mhm.
How do we feel about this, Colin? Do you like this fight? Do you not like this fight?
I mean, I'm glad that Justin Gaethje's getting a fight.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it's like we talk about these aging lightweight action fighters. Is this really the fight that we want to see Justin Gaethje doing? Like I don't really see it going any differently, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I'd rather see, but at the same time, like I also don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, he suffered a pretty gnarly knockout loss to Max Holloway at UFC 300. So I
Mhm.
mean, and I love Justin Gaethje. He's been a very, you know, we talk about using cliches. He's got that dog in him, you know, and I
Yeah.
love seeing it. But at the same time, like this fight, it doesn't really do any. It I feel like it's just if Justin Gaethje doesn't get like a highlight win, it's all, and even if he wins by decision, it'll be like almost like a loss, you know?
Mhm.
It's like this does nothing for his standing or his legacy, really, unless he can make like a fat like bonus with like a knockout win or something. Then I'll be like, okay, yeah, good, go for that. But aside from that, especially because what it could have been, what this fight was going to be, Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. Oh my god, I'm so disappointed that we don't get that. Talk about, like being selfish and just, wanting people to like brutalize each other for our entertainment. Like that's exactly what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I'm glad, exactly like you said, I'm glad it gets the bag, but it's like it's not the best use of Justin Gaethje overall.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Nobody's gonna take a 2-week turnaround fight with Justin Gaethje if their name is Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, Arman Tsarukyan, Ilia Topuria. So of the people that were like, all right, you don't have that much clout in the UFC to take a short notice fight with Justin Gaethje, is there anyone else you could think of that you would prefer to see that short notice turnaround fight be other than Fiziev?
Yeah, there was one who said he would do it. Hanato Moicano.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
I wanted that when I saw Hanato Moicano say, "Hey, I'll step in." I was like, "Oh shit, that would be a great fight."
Yes,
just fucking wild man Hanato Moicano.
I agree, dude. That is exactly what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, that's the fight that it should be. Because I think Hanato Moicano will get killed in that fight. But if he doesn't, the only way he beats Justin Gaethje is by like somehow killing Justin Gaethje, which would be sad. But I'm like, but that's worthy. Whereas we saw this fight before, and if Gaethje remembers that he has a jab, he should probably win this fight again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're aligned on that. I'm like, yeah, this should have been Moicano.
God, I was really hoping, because I didn't know until we started talking tonight, this evening, that there was a fight decided. I was really hoping the Hanato Moicano one would have been it, but alas, I don't get what I want.
It's one of these things where, like, I guess we need to like talk about it, like, too, like the UFC is like slowly conditioning people to believe like, oh, this is just how it goes. But like, I don't know how fucked up Dan Hooker's hand is, but like, if this only needed to be delayed like 2-3 months, or like if in 2-3 months we could have gotten Gaethje versus another action fighter, like why do this in short notice? Why this turnaround? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I know it's like, well, we got to save the card, but it's like, but you just gave us like an inferior product anyway. Like, why not in a couple months just give us a better product? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a weird thing where they've conditioned the fans, and a lot of the discourse around it is like, I ordered a steak and someone gave me a shit burger, and they were like, well, sorry, you only get a shit burger because you.
And be thankful for it.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I would just wait a little bit longer if you could get me a steak. Like, it's fine. Yeah, it's a very weird thing. It's they create this kind of like weird scarcity mindset of like, you can only get this thing now. You either get the dog shit now, or it could be better when you sold us on what the better thing could be. Anyway, but yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully Gaethje gets the win, and then I hope he gets, because it sounds like he's probably gonna retire soon, like 1 or 2 good fights. I hope, dude. The fight I actually like. I don't really have much interest in his opponent's career, but a Gaethje Conor McGregor fight would actually really intrigue me.
Okay.
Because I think Gaethje might be one of the worst opponents for Conor McGregor. Yet Gaethje is so hittable that it like really is a weird test of like if Conor can snipe him. Versus, like, if he can't snipe him quickly in the first round, Gaethje's going to eat him alive.
Yep.
And I love the stakes of that. Of, like, this should be one of the easiest high-level opponents for you to snipe, Conor. But if you don't do it, 900 rabid dogs are going to eat your body. And I'm kind of like, that's cool. I like that. Anyway. All right. We're going to work backwards. We're going to work from the farthest one out possible. Oh, no, wait. I have to mention 313. Josh Van is gonna fight Ray Saruya.
Oh, I did not. Yeah, okay. I'm with it. I like it.
Yeah. How boned up are you? Are we half mass? Are we full mass? Where are we
at? I'm pretty full right now. That's good.
Yeah. Josh Van, Ray Sorria, that's an amazing fight. I hope Josh Van goes against Ray Sorria, Tatsuro Taira, Kaya Sakura. I hope that's his one.
Oh my god.
That's my hope. Yeah, man. That fight, that shit rocks. I love that.
Yeah,
Fight.
I'm with it.
UFC 316. We've gotten the main event and the co-main event. The main event is Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison.
Hey, there we go.
What do you think about that fight?
I mean, I feel like it's the only fight to make for that division. So, and it's part of my prediction. So, yeah, Kayla Harrison, walking away champion.
Not holding you to this prediction now. How entertaining do you think this fight will be? Yeah.
It's either okay. I feel like it's either gonna go where it's like Harrison just like uses her size and like judo abilities like super quickly and gets the win within the first round, or it's gonna be like a really slow plotting, like kind of like Kayla Harrison's last fight where they just kind of like lean against the cage and nothing really happens and she wins on like a little bit of damage and control. I feel like it can only go those two routes.
So no chance in hell Pena wins, huh?
I don't think so.
Now Pena has a win over Amanda Nunes. Have
Yeah.
you thought about that?
Yeah.
All right. When we get to the betting segment of that one, picking an underdog might be an interesting parlay. But anyway,
that's the main card. You can't be. We're picking that automatically, man.
That's right. Fuck me.
That's the main event.
All right. Co-main event, we have Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France.
Yeah, I'm with it.
That fight.
I'm loving that as well. That's great. That's good. I'm excited for that. I'm glad Kai Kara France is getting his shot. I think I did say Pantoja was still going to stay champion at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be really, really good, and I think it's going to bring out the best in both of them. I think it's going to be way more exciting and dynamic than the actual main event. So,
yeah, I agree. That should be. It's good, right? Like Flyweight is good. Pantoja Kai Kara France is a great fight.
And Pantoja continues to impress me each time. Like I don't know like how he keeps getting better, but he does. Yeah. He like impresses more and more with each of his fights. I'm like, God damn, I like this guy. He's great. He's a good champion.
Is he 34, 35? He's like right in our age range. Love that shit.
Yeah.
He keeps getting hotter too. It makes me sad.
Yeah, he's got that new haircut. Like, oh man.
Yeah, I know. So that's 316, at least what we know about it. Fuck the rest of the fights. I don't give a shit. Let's get to 315. Because 315 is going to be in my country, Canada. Now, it's in Quebec, which is basically a different country than the rest of Canada. But ever since Trump has decided to call it the 51st state, we're all holding strong. And, fuck the USA.
Yeah.
I
can't stop you there. Holy shit, this card.
Yeah, man. So Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena. We kind of touched on it. How you feeling about this fight?
I mean, good for Jack Della Maddalena, but at the same time, the fight that should be happening is Bilal Muhammad against Shavkat Rakhmonov, and I feel bad for Shavkat, and I don't really know. I don't know how this fight's going to go. Bilal Muhammad, like you said, has always found a way to win. I don't see him winning in the stand-up war against him, but I think we've talked about also how Jack Della Maddalena doesn't have much of a ground game. So that's going to be a problem against Bilal Muhammad. So
it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a good thing, like a real striker versus grappler competition. Like to see that. The co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko is going to be fighting Manon Fiorot. How do you feel about that?
It's kind of the same thing. It's like one of the few fights that makes sense to happen at women's flyweight. So I mean, it's the one challenge, I guess. And I think I said also Shevchenko would stay champion, and you said Manon Fiorot would take.
I did.
Yeah.
I think it's the time to see the turnover, and I'm glad we get Manon Fiorot in Quebec. We love that. And then the third fight in this card, a baffling decision by the UFC to book this. Jose Aldo, the king of Rio. We love Jose Aldo here. Fighting Ayman Zahabi?
What like Faraz Zahabi's?
Yeah.
What? The guy who fights once a year?
Yeah. Against Jose Aldo. So either we really see Jose Aldo probably is lost a step, or he's got a feast, right?
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
kind of cool. I like that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and like we talked about, like he being robbed in his last fight really took some steam or took some wind out of his sails, and it's just like trying to go for one more like title run. Like I don't know. I don't know. This does seem kind of like a weird, like either A, if you can't beat Zahabi, then you should retire. You should retire again, or
Mhm.
like just collect as much money as you can in these fights right now, like
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no real consequence.
Yeah, I agree. So hopefully gets back to his winning ways here. I think be kind of fighting Ayman Zahabi is tailor made to do that. Two more kind of interesting fights. We got Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. So what do you think about that?
I don't know Jasmine Jazu Devicious, so
No, she's pretty good. She's all right. I think Jessica
okay,
Andrade will win, but that's like it's at least there's stakes and it should be entertaining.
okay, sure.
Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales.
Oh, huh. Yeah, okay, sure. I mean,
Yeah, it's a
it's
noticeable name. Michael Morales is surging. Just knocked out Neil Magny. Not bad.
oh right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a good matchup. This is a good matchup, Colin. Be more excited.
All right. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm good with that.
Yeah, Mike Malott. Sorry, buddy. I know you're Canadian, but like you suck foreign, so I can't. And then
Oh
Alexa.
man,
What a fall from grace. Alexa Grasso, not
I
even on the main
know.
card,
Well, we
fighting
don't know
Natalia
yet.
Silva.
We don't know what the main and prelims
Yeah,
are yet.
she's not beating out Jessica Andrade and Gilbert Burns and Jose Aldo to be on the main card. It's not
Yeah.
happening. Yeah, it's not happening. Like an interesting fight, I think, to see kind of where Alexa Grasso is, but like what a kind of crazy fall overall, right?
Yeah.
And then this one hasn't been officially announced, but like it's all but announced. Benoit Saint Denis versus Yoel Alvarez.
What?
Yoel
Okay.
Alvarez, Ilia Toporia's main training partner. He's on I think a 5 or 6 fight winning streak, all with finishes. And then Benoit Saint Denis either dies in a fight or kills someone in a fight.
Yeah.
That's got sex written all over it. I love that. That's a
All
great
right.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Before UFC 315, we've got 2 fight cards, and they both have main events. The first is Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo.
All right. Yeah. I'm with it.
How do we feel about that fight?
Yeah, I'm down with it. You know, I mean, should be interesting to see what Davison Figueiredo still has in the tank, and if Corey Sandhagen can like bounce back and try to get back into title contention. So yeah.
What do we think should happen? Let's say either one of these people win this fight. What should their next fight be after this one?
Ooh. Well, Davison Figueiredo, if he wins,
yeah.
Actually, good question. Let me see. Hold on. Let me pull up the rankings.
Is it a Song Yadong fight? Is it a Henry Cejudo fight? Is it like what do we at 135?
Umar?
No.
Well, not Umar not against Corey again because he already won.
But maybe Davison. That's not a bad call for Davison. Davison, New York. What if it is Corey who wins?
Maybe Corey against Sean O'Malley.
God, that would be so good.
Yeah.
I think Sean O'Malley's gonna probably get the title shot against Merab, but I'd watch Corey versus Sean O'Malley.
Yeah.
I think it's a good fight though. Sandhagen Figueiredo is a perfectly well made fight for the 135 division.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then the fight we called for, Colin. The fight, one of the only entertaining fights you can make at light heavyweight. Khalil motherfucking Rountree.
Oh yeah.
Jamal dunk on myself Hill. Give me your early impressions of how this fight's gonna go.
Khalil Rountree is going to feast on Jamahal Hill, and Jamahal Hill will again 10-7 himself in some way, and the knockout will just continue to add to the highlight reel of knockouts of Jamahal Hill.
Yes. It's
because this fight was supposed to happen like what, August of last year?
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like here's the like weird thing is like I think you're exactly right, but Khalil Rountree took quite literally a life altering beating.
Yeah,
Life altering, not life altering. Life altering beating against Pereira, right?
sure, yeah.
Jamal didn't take that against Yuri Prochazka. So like I have a
But
weird, scary feeling in the back of my heart that something might happen and we'll see Khalil get hurt and it'll be Jamal hurting him. And then Jamal will say, see, look how good I am. And then I have to sit there and go like, okay. You know what I mean?
no, you do not have to say okay because two things. One, Jamahal Hill is coming off of okay, he was like knocked out against Alex Pereira.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you could say he was knocked out also against Yuri Prochazka. Not like knocked out cold, but he was also TKO'd. You
Yeah.
know, he quote unquote came back early from his Achilles injury that he injured playing basketball.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm
You
not going to
know,
hold that against him, right? The UFC strong armed him. The UFC paid
no.
him to go do the basketball thing. Like,
Yeah, but
no.
he got injured, and
Yeah.
since his injury, he has only been destroyed in 2 fights.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, aside from that, if his chin isn't weakened, his Achilles isn't weakened, whatever, do you even think he has the skill set to match up against Khalil Rountree?
No.
I don't.
No.
100% I don't. So, like, unless Khalil is like so thoroughly physically and like mentally gun shy because of what Alex Pereira did to him, which I don't think he is, but again, we'll have to wait and see. I don't see Khalil Rountree losing this fight at all
But
in
that's the
any
scary
way.
thing. That's the scary thing, Colin. Because like, if the Khalil that showed up against Alex Pereira showed up against Jamahal Hill, he's gonna cleft that man in twain. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like he's gonna. But
that's a good call, right? That's a good reference.
but Khalil might be compromised, man. And then we have to watch Jamahal Hill beat Khalil Rountree. You know how that's like watching a puppy get kicked. Like I'm not ready for that kind of like emotional turmoil to see that happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it won't though. It won't
All right.
happen.
All right. If it does happen, I'm holding you personally responsible
All right,
for it
all right.
happening.
I'll take that, but
Yeah.
it won't. It won't. Khalil, if you're listening to this, if you're one of the 10 people who listens to our podcast now, let it be known I believe in you, and I believe you will destroy the man that is Jamahal Hill.
Listen, Khalil, I also believe in you, but I also just realized like sometimes shit happens, man. Life happens. We don't want it to happen. We get older, our eyesight goes, we get a couple of grays, we start to bald. These are the things we can't stop, and it hurts. I wish you the best of luck, Khalil. I hope you chop him in half with a single kick to the body. But a good pairing, a good. They make so many middleweight and light heavyweight main events nowadays, especially at Apex cards, that drive me fucking insane. And this is like one of the few good ones. This is the exception that proves the rule that they don't know how to match any of their heavy divisions. This is a good one.
Yeah, it'll be. I do think it might be an execution that we're seeing though, and I'm kind of with it. Yeah,
Yep.
it's one of the few times I'm with it.
Yeah. And then we gotta talk about UFC 314. We will talk about it more,
Okay,
but I
okay.
gotta just run through a couple of these ones. We already mentioned
Yep,
Volkanovski versus Lopez, right?
yep.
Michael Chandler versus Patty Pillman, which has been officially been named a 5-round co-main event.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Does that change your excitement for this, or your thought process around what might happen?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna change. Yeah.
And then now, number 3 spot on this card is Bryce Mitchell versus Blue Jean Silva. After Blue Jean Silva summarily executed a man last week, he's got a fight against Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah, damn.
Are you excited for this fight?
I mean, yeah, sure.
I'm
Featherweight.
so fucking excited because every ounce of my body doesn't. It's not a want. It's a full belief that Blue Jean Silva might kill Bryce Mitchell in this game. And yeah, man, I'm here for that. I can't lie. Yeah. Yeah, right. Blue Jean Silva saying he has to shut his filthy mouth and like give him an education, and then Bryce Mitchell being like Hitler wasn't so bad. I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, let's go, Gene Silva. Let's. Have you watched his most recent fight?
Gene Silva. No, I haven't. From this past weekend, I have not.
Yeah, you should rewatch it. I rewatched it again against Bagdasarian. He's like constantly like he's like high fiving him, and every time that guy lands a strike on Gene Silva like high fives him, and then is like, "Good job," and then like knocks him unconscious. I'm like, there's something so scary about like a bully who goes like, "Good job for standing up for yourself," and then kills you. You know what I mean? Like, Gene Silva's a very scary person. So yeah, I'm excited he's fighting Bryce Mitchell. That's all I have to say about that.
Wait, this might actually be the best card this year.
Dude, this card, dude, Miami cards, it was the same one with the Sean O'Malley Cheeto Vera fight, besides that fight. Remember that Miami card last year? It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, just going through this card again. After Bryce Mitchell and John Silva, we have Jeff Neal versus Carlos Praetis. You know, your fucking smoking, drinking wild man. Like, that's great. Dan Ige, who I will always be a fan of, against your homunculus, Sean Woodson.
Yes.
Yeah. Light heavyweight, whatever.
Hold on. It's Nikita Krylov. It's Nikki Thrills against Dominic Reyes. We like this. Nikita Krylov doesn't know how to do anything other than throw 900 kicks a minute at light heavyweight. That's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. And then we've got the future women's strawweight champion, Yan Xiaonan, fighting Verna Jandiroba. Okay. Dude, Jim Miller's fighting on this card too? Like, what the hell?
Chase Hooper? Like,
yeah.
One of the youngest fighters on the card? Yeah.
Yeah.
Suma Derji is also on this card. And then
yeah.
Yair Rodriguez and Patricio Pitbull. Like, that's, bro. Yeah, this card slaps. No, the last Miami card that they had last year was Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera, which, like, whatever. We know what that fight was, but, like, it was Sean O'Malley. Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis.
Oh, right.
Michael Page versus Kevin Holland.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Della Maddalena versus Gilbert Burns. Piotr Yan versus Song Yadong. Curtis Blades versus Jelton Almeida. Macy Barber versus Caitlin Seminara now. Mateusz Gamrot, Rafael Dos Anjos, Kyler Phillips, Pedro Munoz, Michelle Pereira, Michael Oleksiejczyk. Like, yeah, man. Also, Almabayev was also on this card.
Oh, what?
Miami has become the big card, it feels like, for the UFC. Yeah, man, and it's good. And like seeing it, especially, we've got Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. Whoever wins this fight probably fights Mosar Evloev next. Or if Gene Silva kills Bryce Mitchell, we might have a Gene Silva Diego Lopez fight, and that's just got violence written all over it. I'm into that. And if it's Alexander Volkanovski versus Gene Silva, we've never seen Alexander Volkanovski fight someone who's a better athlete than him in his same weight division, and he would have to do that with Gene Silva. That's so cool. I'm so into that. Yeah. 314 slaps. 312 not so much. Which we'll talk about. Is it 313? Is that the one that's coming up? The Pajero one? Yeah. Oh yeah, not 312. Yeah, 313, not so much. Yeah, 313's got King Green. It's got Jalen Turner. It's not as good.
Yeah,
it's not as good. It's got the most unathletic man on the UFC roster, Alex Morono, which I will constantly be a backer of him and will watch his fights. Pour one out for the unathletic jabronis in your life. Yeah. It will be interesting. We'll talk about that more next week. So it's kind of 313 kind of has crumbled before our eyes and it's turned into a very weird card. But the main event is stayed intact, and it's the most fascinating fight in the card.
Yep.
Because it's Has Magomed Ankalaev finally earned his shot at losing to Alex Pereira? Like, that might be the case because he decides not to wrestle. Yeah, we will see.
I
But
will
anyway.
say, on paper right now, 314 is one of the best cards that I see.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just hope it stays intact. Like,
Yeah.
the way the fight game goes, like, so much could go wrong, and this turns into an absolute shit card. But
Absolutely. Well, and the UFC's insistence on replacing fights rather than just like waiting a few months to make a better card down the line.
yep.
I'd like imagine if you just moved the Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje fight to the Khalil versus Jamal card as the new co-main event. You've got Khalil Jamal and Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. Like those are two ultra violent fights that happen on a single card. That'd be amazing. But instead they're like, we'll bring Rafael Vaziev in. Not that he's not entertaining, but we've seen this fight before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah. You just kind of like when the UFC announces cards, you just like cross your fingers and hope that they don't fall apart. And then like I guess like we're gonna have a point where we need to come up because Justin Gaethje, this is probably one of his last 2 or 3 fights. Dustin Poirier is gonna have his final fight. He's hoping to have it in August, which is coming up kind of in the announcement cycle. Like, who is Dustin Poirier gonna be able to fight?
Yeah. I don't know.
Feels like it's got to be Ilya Poirier. You know what I mean?
Oh God, yeah.
It's got to be Ilya. Or is it Max for a third time?
Maybe.
I'd watch that fight.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Dan Hooker again since we've lost Dan Hooker versus Justin Gaethje.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean that's we've talked about the fights coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
I've talked about how they quite literally made the worst, stylistically for entertainment, the worst flyweight matchup you could make and made it the main event of a fight card, which is, I mean, donkey brain thinking. We'll see what happens with Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. Yeah. And then we've got these cards, at least on paper, like you said, are like, these are sexy cards. This is good stuff. This is what we want. But will the Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Rountree fight turn into Paul Craig versus Carlos Oberg? You know what I mean? Like, will that be, or will it be Anthony Smith versus Paul Craig in one of these? And the Sanhagen Figueroa fight ends up becoming, I don't know, like Kai Asakura versus I don't know, Donkerson. Like, how much is this gonna change?
Yeah.
I don't know. And the UFC doesn't care, so we're just sitting here wasting our lives. Anyway, anything else, Colin?
No, that's all I got.
All right. Well, this has been a 2-5 Fans podcast. I'm on 5 Fan Store.
I'm the other Colin.
And look, root for Almabayev because he's great. And I hope Khalil kills Jamal. Bye, everybody.